By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to test yourself and you'll have the tools to be able to evaluate how you're doing with your training, which is going to get you one step closer to that mountain goal of yours. This test is going to give you a benchmark and help you to identify where you're weak, where you're strong, and potentially where you can improve. So I've actually made this video a couple of times. This time I'm going to split it into two different videos. So this is part one, the endurance section, and at the end of this video I'll show you part two, which is the strength section. This initial part that you're watching now is great for hikers, anyone going on a beginner trek. If you're looking to build strength and maybe get into mountaineering and you want to test the strength side of things, I'd recommend also doing the part two, the strength section. In order to complete this test, you won't really need much. You'll need a step or a box, backpack, and you'll also need a timer of some sort, and your phone will work perfectly for that. There are a couple of extra things that can be really handy that just makes this test a whole lot easier. And the first one is bag scale, and that is so you can accurately test exactly how much your pack weighs, which we'll be doing soon. You'll also need a little measuring tape. These are really cool, like $1, and very small and very handy for you to measure your step. The third thing you'll need is a crowd clicker. This really helps to count your steps because you'll be doing hundreds of them and it's very easy to lose count, and that's the last thing you want. So a crowd clicker you can pick up for $3 or $4, super cheap, and they're very, very handy. The last thing that you can pick up is a pulse oximeter, and if you're going to altitude, I really recommend you get one of these anyway. This is mine, it's the Hyology pulse oximeter. I'll be going through in this video a little bit more detail about how to use all these things, so stay tuned. So step one is to take your resting heart rate. Now this is best done first thing in the morning before you've even got out of bed, as early as you can, definitely before you eat anything, and especially before you have coffee. So what you will need is a timer, and what you're going to do is just put your index and middle finger into your carotid artery here and start a timer for 20 seconds, and then count how many beats you feel in that 20 seconds. Then you multiply that by 3, and that will give you your resting heart rate in beats per minute. So write that down. Record it somewhere in a training journal, and then we look back on it later. The easier way is just to buy a pulse oximeter, slip that on your finger, and it will tell you in 2 or 3 seconds what your resting heart rate is. So another good reason to get one of those, link is in the description. Okay, once you've taken your resting heart rate, it's time to go on to step 2. This is where you'll need a step, your backpack, and a timer. So what we're going to do here is a 15-minute step test, and the goal is to ascend as many meters or feet as you can in that given time. And the way that we do that is by stepping up and down on a box that we've measured the height of, and then we calculate that at the end. It'll tell you how much you've ascended vertically. And your first step is to find a box that is going to be a good height for you and to measure that box height. So how do you choose the box height that's right for you? Well, if you're just starting out, I would recommend something like 30 centimeters. As you're getting more confident and stronger and you're building your endurance, you can go up to maybe 50 centimeters. So somewhere in between that range. So this is one out of 2 variables that we can change in this test. And the second variable is how heavy your pack weight is. So this is where this comes in handy. I recommend starting out with just 5 kilos if you're a beginner, just a little bit of pack weight to make it feel realistic. If you have been training for a while and if you're doing this for alpinism and mountaineering, wear whatever your pack weight of your trip is going to be. That might be anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds or 10 to 20 kilos. Have a look at what you're going to be carrying on your trip and make that decision on your own. But make sure you measure it and then you test again later on down the track with the same weight. Okay, so you've got your pack weight on, you've got your step, and you've measured the height and the pack weight that you've got. So it's time to start the timer, put it on for 15 minutes, and then we start heading up on our step repeatedly. Now what's important here is that you stay upright as much as you can, push through your heel, activate your glutes, stand up nice and tall on top of the box, locking your knees out. It's really important that you don't hunch over like this. You want to stay up nice and upright. When you're hunched over like that, it really impacts your ability to take deep, full breaths, which is important for this test. But also, once you're heading to the mountains, you don't want to be in the habit of leaning over like that because it's restricting how much oxygen you're taking in, which is very important when you're at altitude. So you're going to continue as steadily as you can for this 15 minutes. I recommend minimizing the breaks, breaking every 100 steps or 50 steps or something, just so you've got a benchmark there and a goal to say, I'm going to get to here before I have a rest. But if you're quite fit and well trained, it shouldn't be a problem for you at all to get through this 15 minutes without rest. So it's really important that you're using that crowd clicker or just counting in your head how many steps you've done. You have to focus on keeping your posture upright, keep going with the movement and counting those steps because you don't want to forget. So immediately after that 15 minutes, you want to sit down, grab your heart rate monitor, your pulse oximeter, or your timer, and take your active heart rate. So that is the third measurement that we're taking in the test, a very important one. We're going to compare that to our resting heart rate, and also we're going to compare that to the following tests that you do 6, 8, 12 weeks down the track. You're going to see improvement in that active heart rate and the resting heart rate as well. Now, how do you interpret these results? Well, there is an accompanying PDF which is designed to be viewed with these videos, and it has a lot more information that I couldn't get into in this video. So go ahead and download that PDF. The link is in the description, and like I said, it's completely free. You might have heard the phrase, what gets measured gets managed, and what gets managed you tend to get better at. And I can highly recommend just getting a journal and putting everything that you do for your training in that journal and recording it. It's so good to be able to look back over my last few months of training and see that I'm improving. Really, really great motivation to keep me going when I'm having lazy days and I feel tired and I don't feel like training. So this is part 1 of the mountain fitness test. Head over to the second part, which is the strength element. I'll see you in that video.